When you see Roseanne Farm eggs in Tesco or Woodside Farm chicken, you probably assume they come from genuine British farms, but that assumption is completely wrong. These farms don't exist. They're marketing inventions created to influence customers. Tesco alone runs 7 fake farm brands, pulling in over £600 million a year from shoppers who believe they're supporting real British farmers. The Woodside Farm betrayal. Let's start with the farmer whose livelihood they damaged. His name is Richard Boore, and for more than 20 years he raised free-range pigs on Woodside Farm in Nottinghamshire. His pork is Red Tractor certified, his farm is real, you can visit it. His family built their name on quality, welfare and honest farming. Then Tesco came along, not for his pork, not for a partnership, but for his farm's name. They launched a budget range replacement called Woodside Farms, covered the packaging in idyllic countryside imagery, and began selling pork sourced from Denmark, the Netherlands, and intensive UK sites that looked nothing like Richard's farm. Shoppers began asking Richard if he supplied Tesco. They saw Woodside Farms on shelves and assumed it was his, but it wasn't. His hard-earned reputation became linked to products he had absolutely no involvement with. So Richard did what any truthful farmer would do. He prepared legal action. He worked with the charity Feedback, which sent Tesco a letter explaining how the supermarket was profiting off his name while misleading customers about where their meat truly came from. Tesco's CEO responded with astonishing arrogance, saying customers were marketing savvy enough to know that one farm couldn't supply all of Tesco. But here's the part that reveals just how powerless British farmers have become. The lawsuit never went ahead. The legal costs alone could have bankrupted Richard. Instead, he changed his own farm's name. His meat box scheme became Boff's Hogs, simply to avoid confusion with Tesco's invented brand. Tesco won outright. And as of November 2025, Woodside Farms is still on Tesco shelves, selling pork from across Europe under a name taken from a farmer who couldn't afford to fight back. Richard's case isn't unique. Roger Sharpley, owner of the real Boswell Farm, had his name taken to use by Tesco for their Boswell Farms beef brand, which includes meat from Ireland and the Netherlands alongside British cuts. Roger called it an abuse of power, saying supermarkets know they can get away with these tactics because they're too big to challenge. He said if a farmer ever used Tesco's trademark, their lawyers would shut it down instantly. And he's right. But Roger can't sue either. None of them can. The system protects supermarkets, not farmers. Tesco's fake farm network is huge. Right now, they operate 7 fabricated brands. Woodside Farms, pork from multiple countries. Willow Farms, chicken, with a particularly disturbing backstory. Boswell Farms, beef blended from British, Irish and Dutch sources. Nightingale Farms, salad and tomatoes from intensive Spanish polytunnels. Redmere Farms and Roseanne Farms, assorted produce with mixed origins. Suntrail Farms, explicitly used for imported fruit. Bay Fishmongers, a fictional fish brand. Willow Farms chicken is supplied by Avara Foods, owned by US giant Cargill, tied to the River Wye pollution crisis. 23 million chickens at any moment produce waste that has poisoned the river. Investigators also linked Willow Farms chicken to deforestation in Brazil, where feed comes from soy grown on 300 square miles of destroyed savanna. That's what hides behind the Farm Fresh label, industrial-scale environmental damage. These brands appear in over 2/3 of Tesco shopping baskets. This isn't a small issue, it's widespread deception affecting millions weekly. Charity Feedback even awarded Tesco the Total Bull Prize for its commitment to fake farm branding. Tesco's CEO defended the practice by claiming the brands represent quality specifications rather than origin. Translation: they use British farm imagery to sell imported goods while pocketing the extra money customers are willing to pay to support UK farmers. A professor from Imperial College summed up Tesco's thinking perfectly. Using fake farm brands helps them compete with discount retailers at the lower end of the market. In other words, your trust is profitable. Your desire to support British agriculture is profitable. And Tesco monetizes that without actually supporting the farms you think you're helping. Other supermarkets follow the same playbook. Aldi uses Ashfield Farm branding for chicken, beef, pork, lamb and cooked meats, all stamped with the Union Jack. They've pledged to use only British meat and invested billions in UK suppliers, yet they still cling to a fictional farm brand. Why? Because the branding is more valuable than transparency. Then things get even stranger. Lidl sold chicken under the name Strathfale Farm, marketed as reared with care by Scottish farmers. They later apologised and blamed outdated web pages, claiming they removed farm branding 5 years ago after customer complaints, except clearly they hadn't. Their own deception is now so layered they can't even keep track of it. And here's where the Union Jack becomes meaningless and dangerous. British shoppers rely on the flag to identify British produce. 60% deliberately look for it. But UK labelling rules contain a massive loophole. A product can legally display the Union Jack, even if it's entirely imported, as long as the true origin appears somewhere on the packaging in small print and the product was merely packed in the UK. Let that sink in. Something can be 100% foreign and still display a huge British flag. Here's a recent example that shows exactly how this loophole plays out. Imports of Polish eggs into the UK rose by 0% in just 2 years. Yes, 2,000%. This happened during the UK egg crisis, when British farmers warned they might abandon production because supermarket prices made their businesses unsustainable. Instead of paying British farmers fairly, supermarkets turned to cheaper Polish eggs, many from caged systems that are largely banned in the UK. Then came a major Salmonella outbreak linked directly to imported Polish eggs. Polish authorities confirmed Salmonella contamination at multiple sites that were supplying the UK. But the imports continued anyway because they cost less than supporting British producers. The pattern is the same with chicken. Thailand exports about 200,000 tonnes of cooked chicken to the EU every year. The UK imports around 1,200 tonnes for processed foods. Thai chicken is roughly 40% cheaper than British chicken. Thailand also lacks animal welfare standards equivalent to the UK, and the meat is often water-injected to artificially increase weight. Tesco, Asda, Iceland, and Birdseye all use Thai chicken in ready meals, wraps, sandwiches, and frozen items. The origin is technically disclosed, but only in tiny print, while the front of the packaging features British-style branding and British-style pricing. Tesco keeps the entire 40% savings as profit. Spanish imports dominate British diets in winter. Around 90% of the UK's winter salad leaves come from southeast Spain. Tomato imports from Spain recently exceeded 100,000 tonnes. Tesco's Nightingale Farms tomatoes, named after birds that are rare in the UK, often come from huge Spanish polytunnels. The country of origin is hidden on the back in tiny lettering. The front displays idyllic British imagery. You pay a British premium. Tesco buys Spanish volume. You lose, they win. New Zealand lamb is perhaps the boldest example. New Zealand supplies roughly 70% of all UK lamb imports and sells wholesale at £2.50 per kilo cheaper than British lamb. In February this year, New Zealand lamb was 23% cheaper on the wholesale market, but only 12% cheaper on supermarket shelves. The missing 11%? Supermarket profit. Waitrose sells New Zealand lamb rack at £30.99 per kilo, compared to £20.99 per kilo for Welsh lamb, yet they maintain the same profit margin on both. Morrison's even abandoned its British-only lamb commitment, now stocking New Zealand lamb in 39 stores. Their justification: commercial reality. Translation: lying is more profitable. So why has nobody stopped this? Where are trading standards? Why hasn't the Food Standards Agency acted? Here's the infuriating truth. When surveyed, 70% of consumers objected to fake farm branding. The National Farmers Union filed a formal complaint. Their research showed 60% of consumers who believed farm-branded products were British would feel misled if they learned otherwise. This was almost a decade ago. And since then, zero fines, zero prosecutions, zero enforcement. Trading Standards replied that it would be hard to convince a judge that fictional farm names imply a specific geographical origin if the actual origin appears on packaging somewhere, even in microscopic text. In simple terms, as long as supermarkets include country of origin information somewhere, they are free to use as many British-sounding fake farms and countryside images as they want. Under current interpretation, it's legal. Consumer protection laws forbid misleading customers about origin, but regulators classify fake farm names as brands, not locations. Between then and November 2025, not a single supermarket has been penalised for any of it. In April this year, the Competition and Markets Authority gained new powers to enforce consumer protection without going to court, with potential fines up to 10% of global turnover. Now let's examine why the certifications you trust are just as unreliable. Most British shoppers believe the Red Tractor logo guarantees high welfare, outdoor access, and small-scale farming. In reality, Red Tractor standards sit just slightly above legal minimums. They still allow practices most consumers would find disturbing. Tail docking piglets with no pain. Relief. Teeth clipping and grinding. Lamb castration without pain relief. Chicken debeaking. Farrowing crates that immobilize sows for weeks. Zero grazing dairy cows that never go outside. High-density indoor chicken farming. Fast-growing breeds prone to skeletal collapse. Maceration, grinding, or gassing day-old male chicks alive. Recently, animal welfare organizations investigated 26 Red Tractor certified farms. Every single one violated standards. Every one. The pattern never changes. Farms pass inspections, then undercover investigators reveal horrific conditions. Hall Farm, Norfolk sows kept in illegal stalls, banned since 1999. Red Tractor inspected after being alerted the farm passed. Only when the BBC aired the footage did they suspend it. Hogwood Farm, Warwickshire, investigated 4 times pigs living in filth, still Red Tractor certified until public exposure. 3 Red Tractor chicken farms were exposed this year, showing birds with raw skin, overcrowding, dead and dying birds in bins, workers breaking necks and leaving birds to convulse, birds kicked, thrown, or unable to stand. All were certified at the time. A 10-month investigation at one of the UK's largest pig producers, supplying Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's, and Morrison's, documented piglets being killed by slamming them onto the floor. Red Tractor suspended the farm only after the footage surfaced, then criticised the investigators for reporting delays rather than addressing the cruelty. Just recently, 779 Red Tractor members had their certification suspended, and 53 had it revoked within 3 months. A Freedom of Information request found that 60% of inspected Red Tractor farms breached environmental regulations, with over 19,000 recorded violations, from water pollution to improper waste and chemical storage. Every part of the inspection system is structurally flawed, which is why these failures keep happening. Only 0.08% of Red Tractor inspections are unannounced. Farmers can even opt out of unannounced visits entirely. They also pay for their own inspections and can choose which private inspection company comes to assess them, an obvious conflict of interest. Most farms are inspected just once a year. 3 major UK supermarkets told campaigners that they view Red Tractor as nothing more than a baseline standard, offering no real guarantees beyond confirming compliance with national pesticide rules. One supermarket employee even said red tractor audits are stuck checking old issues like spray records, while modern farming is moving away from chemical use and red tractor is not keeping up. Even the Tenant Farmers Association issued a vote of no confidence in Red Tractor's executive board, saying farmers have lost trust because standards keep tightening without delivering value, and the organization lacks transparency in how those standards are set. The certification you trust means almost nothing, and supermarkets know it. The extinction event, what all of this leads to. British farming is approaching an extinction-level crisis. 61% of farmers fear losing their farm within 18 months. 64% of British fruit and veg growers say their farms are financially at risk, up from 49% last year. 30% of all farms are operating at a loss, with 40% of mixed farms losing money. Farm income is collapsing. The basic payment scheme, which made up about 40% of average farm profits, is being phased out by the end of the decade. That's an average loss of £20,000 per farm. Here are real examples of supermarket pressure on farmers. A farmer receives 16p per lettuce, but when supermarkets run promotions, the price drops to 6p and the farmer absorbs the loss. Organic oats are rejected for being the wrong colour, and the farmer must pay to take them back. One farmer reported earning less than 1p profit on produce after supermarket deductions. Fake farm branding only intensifies this crisis. Supermarkets capture the premium that customers think they're paying to support British farmers without actually supporting them. Thai chicken costs 40% less to buy, but sells at full British prices. Supermarkets keep the entire 40% gap. New Zealand lamb is £2.50, £5 cheaper per kilo wholesale, but was recently only 12% cheaper in stores when it should have been 23% cheaper. Supermarkets pocketed the extra 11%. Fake farm branding represents a roughly £3 billion market that customers think they're spending on British produce. With an average farm income of £25,000, that's enough revenue to sustain 120,000 farm businesses. British farmers are losing an estimated £500 million, £1 billion every year to deceptively branded imports. The UK's collapsing food self-sufficiency. Britain is now only 60% self-sufficient in food, down from over 75% in the 1980 seconds. Fresh veg self-sufficiency has fallen to 53%, the lowest since records began in 1988. The UK grows only 16–17% of the fruit it eats. Wheat self-sufficiency dropped to 68%, down from a 92% long-term average. Total food imports hit £64 billion, up 36% since pre-Brexit. Spain now supplies 26% of UK fresh produce imports, 90% of winter salad leaves. The UK is dangerously dependent on a few countries for essential foods, creating huge vulnerabilities in the supply chain. And remember, 95% of UK food is sold through just 10 retailers, giving supermarkets overwhelming control over both farmers and consumers. Real British farmers simply cannot compete with Polish eggs from banned cage systems during Salmonella outbreaks. Thai chicken from welfare-free, intensive operations. Spanish produce from industrial-scale plastic polytunnels. Supermarkets use fake farm branding to play both sides. They buy cheap imported products, package them with British imagery, sell them at British prices, and pocket the premium, all while wiping out the UK's farming sector. If things continue as they are, a large portion of British farms may disappear within the next 18 months. And once they're gone, the UK will be fully dependent on imported food from countries with lower welfare standards, longer and riskier supply chains, and almost zero accountability. That isn't just a bleak future, it's a national security threat. The solution supermarkets don't want you to know. Here's what they won't tell you. You already have access to a solution that's cheaper than supermarkets and significantly higher quality. Riverford Organic Farmers, the UK's leading organic vegetable box scheme, is on average 19.3% cheaper than supermarket organic produce. To break it down, 8% cheaper than Tesco, 18% cheaper than Waitrose, 32% cheaper than Sainsbury's. Some of Riverford's best boxes come in over 40% cheaper than supermarket equivalents. They offer free delivery across England, Wales and Scotland. Prices are straightforward. Small veg boxes, £8.50, £10.50. Medium boxes, £12, £15. Large mixed fruit, veg, meat boxes, £47.80. Riverford is 100% employee-owned and all produce is Soil Association certified organic, the UK's most trusted certification, guaranteeing no pesticides and the highest animal welfare standards. Around 80% of their produce is British each year, and they provide full transparency using supplier maps showing exactly where every item comes from. They hold a 4.8 rating on Trustpilot from 20,000 reviews. Every delivery includes recipe cards, boxes are fully customizable, and packaging is compostable. You can pause or modify your box up to 8 hours before delivery. All you do is visit riverford.co.uk, enter your postcode, and choose your box. That's it. You've started supporting real British farmers. More alternatives you can trust. Abel & Cole operates similarly at abelandcole.co.uk, offering boxes from £17.50. New customers get 50% off with code VEGBOX25. For local shopping, the Farm Retail Association maintains a verified directory of 1,581 farm shops across Britain at farmretail.co.uk. These allow you to buy directly from producers. These are not someday suggestions. These are changes you can make this week that save money and support the farmers supermarkets are pushing out of business. If you still shop at supermarkets, here's who you can trust. Co-op and Waitrose do not use fake farm brands. Morrison's publicly pledged never to use them and has kept that promise, though they did go back on their British Lamb pledge. For certification, the Soil Association standard is the gold benchmark, far stricter than Red Tractor. The logo is a brown and orange circular stamp. You can verify certifications at soilassociation.org. Red Tractor means the animal was born, reared and slaughtered in the UK, but standards sit just above the legal minimum. And remember, 60% of inspected Red Tractor farms were found breaching environmental regulations. Thanks for watching. If you want another video like this, click the one on screen.